Hey guys, hope you're doing awesome. My name is Jake, for those of you who don't know me, but I am the CEO and the founder of PEPT, and that's my great privilege and honor to be able to say that. And wanted to shoot this video today to tell you a little bit more about how we got to where we are today, the story of PEPT, I guess you could say. Hey Troy. And it's a question we get all the time. You know, people always ask me, how'd you get started? You know, yada, yada, yada. And rather than tell that story 10 million times, which is what I normally do, I'll shoot a video here for you guys that are interested. I've taken a bunch of notes because tend to have a not fantastic memory, but we'll see how we go. I'm sure I'll miss a bunch of things, but I just want to kind of give you the gist of how we got to where we are today and what our plans are for the future. So for those of you who are clients of ours, you know, hopefully that'll be great for you just to understand. You know, most people have come into the PEPT system, I guess you could say, in the last 2 to 3 years, but we've been going for about 8.5 years now. So most people just don't know what happened before they got here. So if you have questions, please pop them up. I'm not sure, last time we did a live, the questions for some reason weren't working. But yeah, if you have a question, please pop it up, and hopefully I can see it and answer it for you. So let me get cracking anyway. We started really in 2008. So in 2008, I was a uni student studying sport and exercise nutrition at QUT here in Brisbane. Before that, I grew up in central Queensland in Yeppoon, a little town, and Dysart, an even smaller town. Before Yeppoon, but anyway, that's another story for another day. And I got this email one day while I was at uni in 2008 about becoming a personal trainer and how I could use my credits, right, that I'd gotten from my degree to basically fast track my course. So what I'd have to do is a weekend of practical stuff and a few assignments, and I'd be a PT. So I thought, hey, this sounds awesome. It sounds like a much better job than packing boxes in the warehouse, dusty old warehouse, Heart Sport, where I used to work to pay my way through uni, and you know, so I had money for my partying on the weekend and all that kind of stuff, as you do when you're 19, 20. But yeah, anyway, I got this email, so I thought this is great, did this course, and then all of a sudden I was a personal trainer. So back then, 2008, I was kind of, I got this job with a guy that I work with, basically being his offsider, running some boot camps, right? This was out at Redcliffe. So at the time I was living in inner Brisbane, so I'd wake up at 4 o'clock, be in the car by 4:30 to get there just after 5 to set up for a 6 o'clock session. I'd help out at that session, and then I'd shoot back home or whatever. So basically it took me about 3 hours out of my day, and I get paid $20 for this privilege. But it was great because it gave me the experience, right? So I did that for probably 6 months or so. And also doing a few personal training, one-on-one clients on the side, which I managed to find some workmates that I'd charge like $20 for a session for, this kind of thing. And I started putting, they had these little websites where you could put your profile on the internet and tell people about yourself, and you have a few photos. Very, very primitive to kind of how we do things today. But anyway, I managed to jag a few clients from that and get a few referrals, all that kind of stuff. So essentially in 2008, I was going to uni, I was working at Heart Sport, I worked for the AFL, which was my job before that. I teach kids how to play Auskick and kick the football and all that kind of stuff, which was good fun. And I was working at Heart Sport, and I was doing these personal training stuff. So I was at uni, I had 2 jobs, and was trying to build my personal training business, right? So you can imagine that was pretty fun, doing a lot of different stuff. It was in 2009 where it really got more serious, I guess you could say. So 2009, me and the other person I was running the boot camps with, we actually decided to purchase that boot camp business off our boss at the time, which wasn't necessarily, we knew absolutely nothing about business. It probably wasn't the greatest decision ever looking back. We could have easily just started our own and paid nothing, but we decided to do that. So I guess what actually happened at that time is my grandma passed away and left each of us boys, me and my brother, 20 grand each. So what happened is I used 10 grand to buy a car because my car was literally on its last legs. So I bought a second-hand car and used the other 10,000, which was the exact amount we needed for the business. So anyway, that's how we got started. And so we were running this business, and then I was doing personal training on the side, which was essentially just me. So at some point during that year, I can't remember the exact timings or anything like that. Hey Jordan, hey guys. I decided, my business partner in the boot camp business had just had a baby, so he decided he wanted to just get out of that because it was mornings and nights and tough. So we organised for me to take over the other half of that business, and essentially the PT and the boot camps became one. But just before that is when we kind of came up with the name for PEPT, okay, or Positive Existence Personal Training. Which is another kind of story altogether. And people always ask me, how did you come up with the name? It's so, fitting or great or whatever they say. And I always say it's a really complicated process with a lot of thought put into it, which took a total of about 5 minutes. Okay, so what actually happened was we're at my brother's house. It was a Saturday afternoon. I can't remember the exact date or anything. I just remember we had this blow-up pool. There's blow-up pools and you fill them up with water, and we were sitting around for the afternoon having drinks. We used to have our pre-drinks in the afternoon before we'd go out on a Saturday night, right? And anyway, we were sitting around the table at one point, and I said to everyone, hey, I want to come up with a business name and I want you guys to help me. So what we did is we literally just sat down and came up with words. Someone came up with the idea, we should just come up with words, right? Come up with words that you want the business to be all about. And I was like, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. I don't know how to pick, how to make business names. So remember at this point in time, I was 20 years old, right? So I had no idea. I'd never even been a manager of anything, or, I'd just done odd jobs to get through uni. So, all right, we'll come up with this name. Someone's throwing out these words. So someone says positive, positivity, that kind of thing. I'm like, yeah. And someone else said, it's about, living a great existence or something along those lines. I can't even remember the exact words. And then this kind of spark popped into my head or someone's head, but I'll claim it. I'll say it was my head, right? Positive existence. We're all like, yeah, that sounds cool. So we started calling it Positive Existence Personal Training, got the name registered and all that kind of stuff. And from then on, it was Positive Existence Personal Training. And for years, some people started calling it PEPT. And I always used to say, no, it's PEPT, right? It's PEPT, not PEPT. For whatever reason, that was stuck in my head, and you had to say it properly. But over the years, it's just become PEPT, and it just sounds so much better, right? Hopefully everyone agrees. Now, guys, I'm not sure if I can, if something's going on, I can't see comments, but if you do have any comments, it says they've changed it around recently. Anyway, tried to put a comment in there just so I can see if it's working, but they've changed the way these Facebook Lives work recently, and it's a bit annoying because I can't, for the life of me, figure out how to read your comments. But anyway, I digress, which I tend to do. Apologies for that. So we came up with this name, Positive Existence Personal Training, and it was around about that time that I decided to quit everything else that I was doing. So I quit uni, I quit football. So at the time I was playing like serious AFL. I moved to Brisbane originally at the ambition of becoming an AFL player and playing for the Brisbane Lions and all that kind of stuff. And sometimes I think if I had known then what I know now about training and mindset, probably more so than training, maybe one day I would have. But as it turned out, I had a lot of injuries and I just didn't have the mindset. I had these limiting beliefs, and what I found is every time I went into a big competition or, an important time, generally, I would get injured or sick or something like this. And looking back, there's a lot of things that I would have done different. But I'm very grateful for the fact that I didn't have those skills at that time, because it meant at 20 years old, with all these injuries and frustrations, I actually retired from playing footy, which allowed me to focus on the business, right? So we wouldn't be here today. 9 years on if that didn't happen. So that was really cool. So anyway, I kind of quit all these other things that I had going on in my life and just focused 100% on the PT business. So this was, by the time I guess I was 21, early 21, okay? 2009 now we're talking. The early days were pretty rough. I keep looking down because I've taken some notes, guys, because I got a bad memory. I don't want to miss too many key important things because to me, it kind of just all happened, right? And sometimes I have to sit there and think, what actually happened? What did I learn, right? Just kind of, you go about your day and you keep doing that for 9 years and stuff happens. That's the short version of the story. This is the long version of the story. So anyway, first employee was actually my brother, who didn't actually want to work for me. It was more out of like sympathy, I think, that he decided to help me out. So he was a full-time school teacher, and I was trying to, build up my first personal training studio. So I was doing a lot of one-on-one PTs. I needed someone to run our boot camps, right, down at the beach, and he was a PE teacher, so he was qualified as a personal trainer as a part of that, I think, or you maybe did a bridging course like I did. And he became the first team member, and he was running all these sessions in the mornings and a couple of nights a week. So for him, a bit of extra pocket money helped me out. And initially I kind of twisted his arm, yeah, come and do this and help me out just for a little while. And then of course it dragged on probably 6 or 12 months that he was working for us. Purely because I didn't know how to find people. I didn't know how to get good people. And we tried to replace him. We found someone and it ended up being, why would you ever hire that person? It was ridiculous. But because we didn't know how to find the right people, how to attract the right people, how to train the right people, etc., of course we didn't get great people. So for the first 2-3 years, it was really a battle, people battle. We just didn't have any way of finding great people. Didn't even know what we were looking for in hindsight, and I wasn't a leader capable of attracting and leading great people. So therefore we didn't get great people, which is a really common thing in business, right? So you need to understand, if you want to get great people in your business, become a great leader, and then you'll get great people. Anyway, continuing on. So I'll sprinkle these things as they pop into my head, but at the end I'll go through I've got 3 key lessons that I've learned along the way that hopefully you will appreciate. Hopefully. If you don't, bad luck. All right, so essentially what happened at the end of 2009, so I'm 21 years old, right? Trying to figure out this business thing, not doing very well at all, very stressed out, didn't know how to get the next client, just going week to week, survival mode. And what happened at the end of 2009 is my best mate passed away in a car accident, right? So he was just 21, 21st birthday, about a month prior to that. And anyway, that kind of threw me into a bit of a spin. Clearly, never really had to deal with anything like that before. About 2 weeks after that, 2, 3, 4, I don't know, I'm no good with memory, but my girlfriend dumped me, right? This is all kind of happening at the same time. And this is, December 2009, January 2010. Which is obviously the busy time for a personal trainer, right? January. So I remember at the time, actually, I was on my way to Richie's funeral, and I remember it clearly. 2 things happened. At this time I was kind of in survival mode, absolutely just needed to make some sales to keep the business alive, right? So I was kind of hanging out for January when all this happened. And I was in Yeppoon. It must have been New Year's Eve or something like that. I remember there was a few mates around for a few drinks, and someone's called me up, an old client of mine, said, hey, I want to get into it and do an 8-week challenge in January, right? So he's like, have you got any? So of course I didn't have an 8-week challenge, but I hadn't thought that far ahead. But I said, yeah, I've got an 8-week challenge. We're going to do 8 weeks of boot camp. We're going to do PT every week. I'm going to help you with nutrition, blah, blah, blah. So I came up with this 8-week challenge, I was telling you, and essentially I needed $1,000 because I was behind on my rent for the month, which was $1,000. This is rent for the gym. So I said, it's $1,000, right? He said, cool, sounds great. Anyway, so he pays $1,000, we pay the rent, keep the business going. And then must have been a couple of days after that, I was on my way to Richie's funeral, Jason's funeral, right? And this person who had been inquiring about training with me, maybe for the month previous or something like that, called me. And normally, you wouldn't answer that call, right? But at this time, I was in desperation mode, and I remember it clearly because I never want to have to do that again. I never want to have to, stop whatever's most important to me in my life and in the personal life, just to answer a phone call to make a sale out of desperation. It's something that really just stuck in my mind. Anyway, I've answered this phone call and had a chat to her and booked her in, right, to meet up next week, and ended up being a great client, and that was great. But yeah, I just remember that clearly, just, desperate, had to do something even though, your mind's clearly somewhere else. And I was on my way there to this funeral, which I was speaking at. I was doing the eulogy. So I'm like freaking out, trying to rehearse this, how am I going to hold it together up there, all that kind of thing. And then this phone rings. So maybe it was a welcome distraction, but I just remember, I need this sale, I've got to answer it. And talking to this lady as if, nothing was, as if everything was okay, So anyway, those are things that kind of stick with you over the journey. For anyone just tuning in, I'm having difficulty seeing any comments, so apologies for that if you're posting any questions or anything. I can't see them, but I will be able to see them as soon as the video finishes, and I will answer them for you. If you've got any questions, pop them in. Now, so fast forwarding now, we're in 2010. I remember we were trying to figure out how do we open more locations. So the one thing that I learnt from Jason passing away is how short life is, right? So you kind of think you've got forever to do stuff until something like that hits home and you realise, geez, I've got to get my act together. So basically trying to open multiple locations. We started over at Bracken Ridge. Our headquarters is at Redcliffe. Didn't go so well, had to close that down. We opened another location in Yeppoon, which is where I'm from. And I figured, hey, I know heaps of people there, we'll be able to get something going. Found a person, turned out, they weren't the best person in the end, and learnt that lesson many times. But, hire slow, fire fast, very important. But anyway, we had all these dramas just trying to multiply. And the reason we had the dramas is because we didn't have a clear vision of where we're going, and we didn't have the right team. Okay, so these are the big lessons, and I'll elaborate a little bit more on those a little bit later. The other thing that happened in 2010 was I met my first mentor, and who's still a mentor with us at PEPT and a coach, is Coach Brad. And he really opened up my eyes to... And I was one of his first ever clients. He just started business coaching, walked into the studio one day, started having a chat, and we still work with him today, which is great. He opened up my eyes to what's actually possible and how to actually run a business, okay? Because before this, remember, I'd never done anything like that. I just worked kind of in a job, packing some boxes, kicking footballs around, that kind of thing. That was my two different jobs. Never been a manager of anything, etc., etc. So I was really just flying off the cuff, figuring this thing out as I went by reading blogs and stuff like that. Right, not very strategic at all. So anyway, he taught me literally how to run a business, how to think differently, how to think like a business owner, how to become the person that can actually be capable of running a business and leading other people. So for that, I always have a big debt to owe him. But, so he's been great. So that was a lesson in itself. Get help. Get the right people around you that can guide you and help you, and that's going to fast-track your success dramatically. So that was 2010, and then we had a whole bunch of ups and downs over the next couple of years with trying to open new locations, trying to hire a bunch of people, trying to become a actual business owner, in my own mind. All these things that, we'd had some big wins, had some big problems. One of my biggest problems back then, which led to our biggest problems, were going off in different directions all the time, getting a bright idea, what we call bright, shiny objectitis. getting a bright idea and kind of running off in a new direction and forgetting about what we were doing or dropping the ball in another area of the business. So that happened a bunch of times, whether it be a new location or, this idea to build this website with workout videos and all that. Spent 6 months on that. I think we got like 2 or 3 clients on that. So we probably spent 10 grand or something in 6 months of time to get 3 people paying $20 a month or something like that, right? Ridiculous. Anyway, looking back, it was a terrible idea. And many other examples like that along the journey, right? So we live and we learn. Anyway, it was probably, I think, around 5 years ago now that we launched our Rockhampton location. So at the time, this was our 4th location from memory. Something like that, 4th or 5th, right? And before then, or up until this time, none of our other locations had ever really done incredibly well, had taken off. We didn't have the right people, we didn't have the right plan, we didn't have the right management and leadership to run multiple locations. We hadn't figured it out yet, you could say. And since opening multiple locations, our first location also suffered because of the dilution of energy, right? Anyway, Rockhampton was a bit of a watershed moment. So we teamed up with Simon, who was a mate of mine from way back, and he actually used to coach me in footy in my junior days in Yeppoon. So we opened this location in Rockhampton together, and it went incredibly well. Okay, so what I learned there, or what we learned there, is that we have something that works, right? We need to find the right people. If we have the right people to implement the systems and do the stuff, do the work that we know works, right? We're going to go great 9 times out of 10. So that was a big lesson in that what we actually have is great. What we need to find and curate and develop is the right people with the right attitude, the right mindset, the right work ethic, etc., etc. So that was a big watershed. That was about 5 years ago. So that was our 4th location, I think, 4th or 5th. And now we have 36 locations, and in many ways we're just getting started, right? Simon and I together, we've gone to open 3 or 4 more locations, and he also plays a role within our HQ now as well. So that's been really cool. So since that, I guess, learning experience, what we started doing is selling the rights to people to go and open up their own PEPT location, and we would, let them use all of our systems, our branding, our name, and mentor them to run their own location. So that's been a really big part of our business ever since. And right now, around about half of our locations are owned that way by other people, okay? And about half of them are either company-owned or company-owned in partnership with other people, like Simon. Okay, so a couple of different, I guess, models that we use. But anyway, so that was a big thing about 5 years ago. And then essentially from that time, it's just been kind of repeat, keep going, keep learning lessons, keep finding more great people, adding to that. Now we have a team of nearly 100 awesome people, okay? Whereas, and out of all those people, we have less dramas than I used to have with 2 or 3 people, when I had 2 or 3 the wrong people, right? So anyway, big lessons there in finding the right people, okay? Finding the right people. Probably the number 1 lesson I've ever learned in terms of growing a business anyway. Now, the other question I always get is, we now have a location in India, which is where I am right now. I'm sitting in a hotel in India where we have our first location. I've spent a lot of time here this year, and people always say, why? Why did you start in India? And we've got big plans for over here, which is why I spend so much time here at the moment, developing the team, building some leaders, developing the systems. It's because, it's a very different environment, very different culture, people, etc. But why India? So I went to this conference 2016, last year, start of last year, I think, in Melbourne. And this guy was talking about how Australians typically just, we're kind of if you look at the world, we're a very segregated country, right? We're surrounded by water. We don't share any borders with anyone. We're not very well travelled in many ways. Most Aussies just stick to it, right? And when we're in business, we tend to do business in Australia, because we live in Australia. We do business in our area because we live in that area. Not because it's the best place for our business or because it's the best spot to, there's the most people that need our service there. So just got me thinking, like, it was a bit of a mind explosion. Like, where would be the number one place in the world that we could make an impact, grow our business while helping heaps of people? And that's the only way our business grows, is to help more people, right? So we did some research and we found, 40% of the whole world's population lives in China or India. So pretty clearly, if we want to go big and we want to help heaps and heaps of people, we should go where there's a lot of people to help. So we looked at China. It's quite complex to open a business in China. We still will do that, but at the time, it's kind of like, well, we can much more simply open one in India. And it's also a far less developed fitness industry, so there's less competition. There's also less of a market for it right now, which is why there's less competition, right? But it's a booming segment, right? So in 10 years' time, it's going to be a huge market, right? So we want to get in there now while there's less competition, establish ourselves so we can be the number one provider when it comes to, when it's actually a big industry. So in India, what we discovered is 20 million people every year move into the middle class, what we call the middle class, right? Where they actually have some disposable income. So the Indian economy is really growing quite rapidly. There's obviously about 20 million people in Australia in total. And, so many PTs, there's a PT on every corner. We all seen them. And doesn't mean we can't help heaps of people in Australia. We still go after that really, really aggressively. But if we could go fishing in a pond where or in the ocean where there's no fishermen versus a pond where there's 100 fishermen, let's go to the ocean and try our luck, okay? So that's what we're doing, working really, really hard. We're getting our first location, really actually doing some good stuff. We do our PEPT Academy over here, which is where we train personal trainers, and we do that back in Oz, which is something we started developing a few years ago in response to the biggest problem we have, /had, and always will have, more than likely, is finding great people. Okay, so your business can only grow as fast as you can find great people, especially in a business like ours, which is so people based, right? Service business. So we need people to help more people. So we created an academy so the right people can come and join our academy, become a PT, and then hopefully join our team or open their own PEPT, right? And that's how we grow. The main way we grow is kind of a few different avenues. So we're doing that over here in India, really establishing that now. We just finished another academy week last week where we trained another 3. It was a pretty quiet academy week. Next academy week, end of November, we will have around 20 people, doing their qualification with us, getting trained, and out of that, we always hire people to join our team, and we always get new location owners out of it as well. So that's kind of our strategy. Anyway, that was India, right? Why India? Why did we start in India? I think that's what we were talking about. So lots of plans for the future. So, India is the start of, I guess, what you could say, the international expansion. So we model and we say one of our internal kind of sayings is that we're building the Starbucks of fitness. Okay, so we're not interested in just kind of staying small and helping a few people. We're in India to go big, not just because I love flying for 24 hours every second week or anything like that. It's because we've got a huge opportunity here to make a difference. And we look at the world, right? And the world is going through 2 major challenges that we can really control. I think there's a couple more major challenges, but the 2 that we're really interested is in physical health and mental health. Okay, so we have a world that's getting fatter. Pretty simple. We're getting physically less healthy. Okay, and a big part of that is mental health as well. So we're having higher and higher rates of suicide, depression, mental illness, etc. So we built our business, and this has only really become clear to us in the last couple of years, I'd say, in regards to what is our actual purpose on this earth. What are we actually trying to do? And that is to create a healthier, happier world. Okay, and what we say, or our vision, is we exist to create a healthier, happier world through positive action. Okay, so actually making change, creating change, helping people change their lives, which helps them light the way for other people to change their lives. And and we want to be the leaders in that change for the whole world, not just for Australia, not just for India, right? But next year we're doing, it was supposed to be this year, but India hasn't, India's taking more work than my ambitious mind thought it would last year, right? So anyway, it's going to all be good in the end. But yeah, next year we're going to China. Okay, China is the next, huge country, obviously, in the world. So we want to really focus on Asia, our doorstep, the developing part of the world. Health and fitness is not traditionally a huge thing there, but it's growing. Okay, while we also continue to grow in Australia and other countries as the right people pop up. So. That's future plans. We're also launching our food business literally in a couple of weeks in Australia, which is going to be like pre-prepared healthy meals. Okay, so we know that so much of our physical health comes from the food that we put into our body, and we've done very well at helping people physically and mentally. But there's 3 key areas to living a healthy, happier life. You've got your physical health, you've got your mental health, and you've got your nutrition. Right? You've got to exercise, you've got to practice, a good mindset. And you need to eat the right food, otherwise you're simply not going to have an amazing life. So we realize that we're dropping the ball in that area and we can do more to help. Okay, so we're starting a food company, which you'll hear a bunch about in the next couple of weeks, launching mid-November. Okay, so you literally get your healthy meal, you'll be able to pop it into the microwave and you've got 2 minutes, it's fresh, it's made fresh, and you get your delivery every week, and it's happy days. So that's just going to be like a convenient way for people to stay on track physically, mentally, and nutrition-wise, so we can help people with all 3 areas. So that's a big part of it, as well as just expanding into other countries. Okay, so keep doing what we're doing, keep refining what we're doing, getting better and better and better every day. A big part of our culture in our business is constant improvement, constant and never-ending improvement. So it means every day we're doing something better. Okay, we're getting better, whether it's getting better as a leader, getting better in our systems, getting better in our hiring and training of people, getting better in how we deliver our services, etc. Okay, so I promised a few lessons. Okay, so I've just jotted down 3 main lessons or 3 of the big lessons that I've learnt in the last 8.5 years or whatever since starting the business, and going from just literally me as a personal trainer, training people before work, after work, car parks, in their houses, whatever. Right, to now where we have 36 locations. We're in India, we're in Australia, we're helping thousands of people every week, and it's been a huge learning curve. And it's funny because you think, and people say, oh, you seem to have it all figured out or whatever, but that's just not the case. It's constant, and if anything, you learn faster now. So I'm learning more now than I ever did in the early days, which seems kind of counterintuitive, but the more you learn, I've found the more you realize there is to learn. Okay, so it's kind of like, you're digging a hole expecting to get to the other end, but there's always more. Keep going, which is great. You just got to do the work. Keep learning every day. So that wasn't one of the lessons that I put down, but anyway, the first lesson, getting really clear on your purpose. Okay, understand what your life is all about, and if you're running a business, what your business is all about. So our business really started to grow when we got clear on why it was so important for it to grow. So in other words, in the early days, I became a personal trainer because I thought it would be a better job to hang out in an air-conditioned gym all day than packing boxes in a dusty warehouse and sweating my guts out all day, every day, right? That's why I became a personal trainer. So in the early days, with that as my purpose, the business didn't grow any more than what was required, which was enough for me to survive, which as a uni student, I was used to surviving on very little. So the business didn't grow, right? Now we have a much bigger vision, a much clearer vision, in that it is our job, our reason for existing, to create a healthier, happier world through positive action. Okay, so it's really simple. We're here to create a healthy, happy world. We've got to do some stuff. All right, we've got to get to work. We've got to build the team. We've got to, get out of our comfort zone every single day. We've got to actually do some things that other people aren't prepared to do to make that happen. But it's much easier to do that because we have a purpose, we have a vision. So whether it's your business or your life, I think you need that. You need. I know you need that. To do anything big, you need a bigger vision. You need something to strive for. Okay, a reason for existing. Why do you exist? Why does your business exist? So I see my reason for existing and the business's reason for existing exactly the same. Okay, so for me, PEPT is not, hey, let's build it up and sell it so we can buy a Lamborghini or whatever. I'll buy a Lamborghini one day anyway. But getting clear on, why does it exist? And because we as humans, happiness is a word that gets thrown around a lot, right? And we want to create a healthier, happier world. What does that actually mean? Well, happiness comes from fulfillment, okay? Fulfilling your values, your needs, your requirements in your life. So if there's something you want to achieve, you need to get clear on it, and then you need to act according to that every day, and you will find fulfillment, okay? If you go to work every day and spend 40, 50, 60 hours a week or whatever, doing something that doesn't fulfill you, that doesn't take you towards achieving what you want to achieve in your life, then you're going to have a pretty ordinary life, pretty average life, which is something I'm really passionate about, helping people see that, there's going to be challenges in following your dreams. There's going to be days where you wish you had a 9 to 5. Hopefully not many of those days. Or you wish you were, you'd stayed comfortable or whatever, but you push out the other side of that and you're going to find a beautiful place, something where you can wake up excited about what you're doing every day, or not even every day. I think that's probably not really true, but most days, right? The vast majority of days, 99 out of 100 days, you wouldn't want to be doing anything else. It's possible. So you've got to go after it, find something fulfilling, but that comes from figuring out the answer to this one question, which is, why were you put on this earth? I think everyone has a reason, a purpose in life. It's your job to find it. And sometimes I don't like that word finding it. I think it's your job to decide why you're put on this earth, and then act accordingly every day. Don't be a hypocrite. If you're here to create a healthier, happier world, then you've got to go do that every day. Okay? Don't mope around complaining about everything, right? So getting clear on your purpose is incredibly important, whether it's your life or your business or both. The second big lesson that I've learned is you need the right people around you. You need to build the team. And as I go through this, it's more and more around building the right people, getting the right people, helping them grow, develop, etc., into amazing people that can help us find and grow and develop and lead more great people, right? So if you're going to build a business, you need to get great people around you. Great people that can fill in the gaps that you leave, because none of us are experts on everything, and if you think you are, you've probably got an issue and you've got a problem that you need to slap yourself in the face and realize that you're going to have gaps and you need other people to fill those gaps. So I'm really good at a few really key things. I'm terrible at 97 other things, okay? So we need the right people to fill in those gaps around us. It's super, super important. And not only for a business, but for your life. You need the right people around you that can help you. There's a great saying, a flower doesn't grow while surrounded by weeds, right? So make sure you're hanging around the right people, getting great advice, filling your time with people that inspire you and encourage you and drive you and critique you where necessary, right? If you've got a dumb idea, you want someone that can tell you, hey, here's another opinion on your fantastic idea before you go and chase it. And the third and final lesson that I wanted to leave you with was being comfortable with change, especially if you're going to grow a business, but if you're going to grow your life, you're going to have to change a lot. Now, in 8.5 years, I've gone from like a uni student, essentially doing PT on the side, to now I don't do any personal training, I don't do any sales, all I do is lead. I do meetings with team members, coaching sessions, we call them coaching, not so much meetings, but helping develop our key team members, helping develop strategies with our key people and outside consultants and whatnot, helping plan for the future and starting new stuff. Okay, so finding the right partners if we're going to start a new company or a new venture like India or our food business, etc., etc. But in between going from that to that, I've probably had about, I reckon on average every 2 or 3 months my job has significantly changed on average, right? So I've been the person that's had to do everything, obviously session sales and all that at the start, to then I went through a phase of full-time sales. I stopped running sessions, I just did sales, right? And then I started hiring people, so I was hiring people and doing sales at the same time, and then teaching other people to do sales, and then I have to jump back in and become a full-time PT while doing full-time sales and doing the marketing and hiring the people, right? So many different job changes, okay, role changes, and that's required a lot of growth and learning, right? And being open to that, and being really open to making mistakes. It's okay to make mistakes, but it's not okay to dwell on them. Okay, so make a mistake, fail fast, I mess that up, I suck at sales, or whatever it is, right? Learn from it, get better, or get someone to help you with that, and then move forward really, really quickly. Okay, identify where you suck and fix it up. Fix it up. It's not a bad thing to make some mistakes. In fact, it's the quickest way to learn, right? Stuff something up, fix it, learn from it, get going. So get the right mentors and don't be afraid to try stuff and make mistakes. Otherwise, if you stay avoid risks, or what some people call risks, then you're basically signing up for average. You're signing up for mediocre. You're signing up for middle of the road, vanilla. If that's what you want, good for you. If it fizzes you up to stay the same every day and be excited about that, good for you. But if it doesn't, all right, you just got to go for it. I think, and I'm really, I suppose, grateful the fact that I learnt this early on, how short life is, or the fact that I realised that it was a lesson and not just doom and gloom, right? When my mate passed away at 21, for a long time it was doom and gloom, but then I saw the lesson, and it's never a good thing, of course, but something good can come from it if you have that mindset. All right, what can I learn from this experience? How is it going to serve me in the future? Which is a great thing if you're ever stuck in a down spot in life. How is this phase of my life or this thing that happened going to serve me in the future? And once you realize that, the lesson, how it's going to serve you can move forward, okay? You can balance out the equation. You've got negative and positive in everything in life. Balance it out so you can move forward. Anyway, just started rambling on. I hope that was helpful for some people. If you've got any questions, pop them in the comments. I can't see them right now for some reason, but I will see them when I finish this post, and I will get back to you and answer the questions for you. So it's been a great pleasure. I hope you learned something, and thanks for hanging around. All right, bye.